Happy Tuesday. We're back again. This is the Confidence Coaching Clinic. I want to say what's up to everyone out there. Hope you're having a great week. Um, every week we're here on YouTube streaming live. We're going to do spot coaching for those people who have to make hard decisions. This is to boost your confidence in the moment. Anybody can be confident when things are going well, but when you are in a high stakes situation, when your neck is on the line for something happening, when you're accountable for a team of people, you need to know how to anchor yourself and be confident and be more persuasive and show up with leadership, executive posture. Activate your confidence to show up in a way that increases your yes energy. Exude executive presence, become more persuasive, project that confidence into the people you come in contact with. By the way, rate us on 5 stars wherever you're listening to this content. I appreciate you spending a little time with us to expand how you see yourself and what's possible for you in your life and your business. Follow Rome Madison on YouTube. What's the real effect of confidence? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, well, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? Now, if this involves getting away with a crime, robbery, ski mask, I hope this is not the podcast for you. However, as long as it feeds humanity, as long as it adds to the kingdom, what would you do if you could not fail? What kind of confidence would you have to step into it and do what's necessary? Confidence influences your choices. You stay moving forward towards what you really want. And it's a day by day thing because there's a lot of things that get distracted. We deal with, the burden of potential expectations. So confidence helps us to continue to move forward, to break the barriers, whether they're real or perceived, and use our will, impose our will on the universe and make things line up with you. We have free will. That is our determination. Confidence comes by doing, moving forward. So doing things repeatedly will build your tenacity. That means you stick to it. You build confidence each time you move forward toward that vision, that goal, that task, being proficient in it. You stick to it. You're not easily pulled away from it. That's the meaning of tenacity. You move forward towards what you want with more confidence and intention, and it creates an energy shift in you. It's called being in the zone. When we love watching sports, we love watching athletes because it's physical, football, baseball, whatever sport, because it's a physical manifestation of, excellence and winning. It is the business of winning is sports. But before you seeing them make those plays, they were practicing those plays. They were conditioning themselves. They were healing from injuries. They were working out. Confidence comes by doing. And sometimes it is the little things that you do not see that allows them to do the big things that you can see. Same thing with you. Confidence comes by doing, repeatedly building your tenacity. Now, how do you move forward? Okay, if confidence is moving forward every day, how do you move forward on big things? How do you make big decisions? Well, nothing usually happens unless it has to. I love Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones would talk about the way he negotiates. I am a Dallas Cowboy fan. Everybody's a Dallas Cowboy fan, by the way. Even those who boo for him, y'all cheer for him louder than we do. But Jerry Jones says, nothing gets deals done like deadlines. It just goes to show when you have to do something, you can lock in more cleanly, focus more confidently. Nothing happens until you have to. Usually that's when people move. You got to feel enough pain or at least enough emotion to propel you forward. And that's kind of the problem with where we talk about confidence. Because again, people can be confident. Anyone can be confident when things are good, but it's when things are, stressful. How do you operate and make good decisions to move towards what you want, even when it seems risky to do? So we'll tolerate discomfort all day long and stay in situations that don't serve us because one, we feel that we have to, two, we feel that we don't have any alternatives, and three, kids just don't hurt enough. And we're not uncomfortable enough. Pain is what moves you, um, or a tremendous sense of energy from love. And that is the most powerful emotion moving. We'll get into that in a minute. But bottom line, confidence comes by doing, by repeatedly building your tenacity. FOMO is a powerful emotion that causes people to move. But again, people usually don't move and they stay in that place of discomfort, dissatisfaction, and it erodes your confidence. I'm going to say that again. Staying in places that do not serve you, that you know you're not growing in, erodes your confidence because you stop moving forward with intention and that energy is not being generated at the molecular level for you. So, what you need when you get in situations like that are the same things that those high performing athletes that we cheer for need. You need a coach. A coach keeps you in go mode. A coach, if you have a coach, it says to you, you have to do this. Well, generally, you go on and do it because that's your coach's job. That's why you have a coach. That's why you're there to subject yourself to a coach. They move you constantly out of your comfort zone. Even when you make gains, it's their job to continue to keep you moving outside of your comfort zone, to keep you in a pattern of growth. And you have to stay in go mode to get your energy up, to build your rhythm up, to build your resistance and resilience up, to continue to do it over and over and over again. That's what coaches do. So when I was in a painful situation in my corporate life, now I was already, a VP. I had, achieved, those things. And in my career, I've been making over six figures, quote unquote, for the last 25 years of my life. So when I had arrived at the vice president level and then I had multiples of six figures, I really thought I had arrived. I certainly made more than anybody that I knew, more than, my family had achieved. And when there's only two of you in a company, three, four of you, when you get to the VP level, there's only so many jobs available. And so people will come after you. People think they want to be leaders and think they knows what that comes with. People have this false sense of what leadership is. Like you're a leader and now you don't have to work as hard because you don't have an individual contributor. You're a leader now, you have people to help you do the work and hit the numbers you have. That's not true. Leaders, you have to be able to accept people throwing tomato cans at you, throwing rocks at you. Intentionally going against your leadership, challenging your authority and leadership, your sense of judgment, your decisions. So people think they want to be, in leadership, but I digress. But it was getting uncomfortable for me because there was a leadership change at the top, and this person comes from outside of the life science industry. They have the MBA and all those things, and they're destined to be, the head of sales, a chief commercial officer, whatever. So they come in, but of course, when there's a regime change and there's leadership change, they bring their own network of people to help run the organization because it is a turnaround. When there's a new executive change, generally, and this was what one of my mentors told me, you've got 3 to 6 months to make a change. because people expect it. Well, the company was expanding, and now there were a bunch of peers, and now we expanded our sales team, almost doubled it. And many of these peers did not know the industry. I had been with the company for a while, and we had a good base of people, had a good culture. But now there's people coming in that really don't know our customer, they don't know the business. And so for about the first year, I would share my knowledge happily because I wanted everyone to do well. I wanted everyone to really understand how far we'd come and catch the vision of what it could be in the future. But then after a year, some of these people that came in a year ago were ascending, and then to fill those positions, one of those positions, a guy that I had hired as an individual contributor a year or maybe not even a year, now he's my peer. So again, you can see the writing on the wall. Did I aspire to higher position? Of course I did. Did I know that they were going to even have another position? No, I didn't. And so these things, you get left out of certain conversations because they're now planning, around you. I'm still a valuable asset. It's valuable to me. I'm taking care of my family. I'm doing well, but I know that it's not fulfilling, and I know that it's not going to eventually, I'm going to be, surpassed in the growth of this organization. I'm just can be displaced too. How many of you have ever felt that way? How many of you have ever been in a situation that you felt you really worked hard? You really proved your value to the organization. You gave a lot. And you felt that your work would speak for itself, that you would be recognized, that you would earn future raises or promotions. And that just wasn't the case. At least that's what it was for me. So as the industries were expanding, our companies were expanding, other companies were expanding. And they were being headed, their head of sales or their chief commercial officers, had less experience and knowledge and relationships than I did. And I seen them one after the other kind of fizz out. And I thought, I know I can help these companies. The reason they're failing is because they're the third, fourth entrants into the market. They're not the first market movers, but I can help them because there's plenty of business to be had. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know that that was possible. So the more miserable I got, I had a choice to make. Instead of continuing to talk about the situation that says, hey, I want to go out on my own, I want to be a speaker, I want to publish books on this experience, what I've done with building companies, $1 million brands. Instead of me talking about it, I finally had to do something about it. I had to turn my want to into my have tos. You used to say, you can do something that you want to do, but you got to do something. That means it's done. You just got to do it. So you got to turn your want tos into have tos. I'm from Denison, Texas. I got to do this. You have to turn your want tos into your have tos, because when you have to do something, it's done. You just have to do it. That's why coaches exist, to get you from want to I must do this. Why? Because this is how it's done. So the first thing I want to do is okay, well, if I'm going to be a consultant, well, I am a consultant. And if I am a consultant, what would a consultant do today? How would it go about building my business? What would be my level of expertise? How's that work? So I had to start writing that down. So I started writing it down, what I would do to get these clients. Couldn't quit my job, but at least I had to have to think like working like an independent, running and scaling a business. And so I accepted the fact that I'm fully employed. I'm not in a position to quit my job and do this, but I knew I had the self-competence also, that I could help with sales strategies, that I could help with KOL development. I could help these companies understand better the market dynamics so they can improve their position, their product position in the marketplace, and really have a sales strategy to have staying power. I knew I could do those things, but I didn't have a strategy to do it. But I had the first things, and that's how you activate your confidence. You can go back into the podcast. We talked about how do you activate your confidence. My framework is self-acceptance, self-confidence, and a strategy. I had those first two even when I was full-time employed. I had the accepted knowing that I was enough, competent enough, but I didn't know how to get from employed to self-employed. And then I saw on the news, NBC, CSNBC, CNN, Fox News, a man by the name of Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong. Dr. Patrick, at the time, was one of the owners of the Lakers. Dr. Soon-Shiong he had acquired or purchased the Los Angeles Times newspaper. And at that time, Dr. Soon-Shiong was on these news channels explaining how he was going to cure cancer. Of course, a bold, provocative, statement that got him on those channels, no doubt. But what he was talking about was not far-fetched. Now, this is 2015. It's not far-fetched. At this time, we are like, in our knowledge of the genome, it's 10 to maybe 10 years. We started to understand the genome and its implications for our health and longevity. And that's certainly how we are going to improve cancer care, which we have. But that was, 10, 11 years ago. He's going to cure cancer. So I thought, he's buying these companies. He's buying a conglomerate. I know I can help him because I see the need in terms of bridging the gap with patient access to these industries, these companies, these technologies, these tests. I know the gap in the issues with getting them to people. That's what he's trying to do with his conglomerates, putting these different aspects of a healthcare system together. Wearable devices. This 11 years ago. Wearable devices, large language models, testing, big data. Oh my gosh. Delivery, care delivery. So I saw him and everyone saw him. And this is months later, I was going to a conference and I find out that he's going to be speaking at that conference and his company was going to have their first public showing of like their new conglomerate, whatever that is. And I through LinkedIn, connected with some of the people in the organization. One of them was their chief commercial officer. So at that conference, I knew he was speaking. It's a big news event. So he's got an entourage with him. So again, we're at this conference and he walks to the booth. He's got an entourage around him. I make a beeline to the guy. I knew that if I got a chance and I had sent these people emails, I could drop some names of people who I knew, I contacted, and I actually saw that he was standing at the booth and like the crowd had died down, all the cameras and the paparazzi and all that stuff. Ooh, okay, now he's there. So now they got their pictures and stuff. And so I made a beeline towards him. And I believe the fact that I walked up so confidently because I knew exactly what he was talking about, his vision. I didn't think he was far-fetched. I had been in this industry. I knew what the chasm was between where we are and where he wanted to be. And so I walked up in him, walked right by the people in his entourage. They looked at me. Of course, I was dressed stunningly professional. I was sharp and dapper. I walked right up to him, stick my hand out. Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, my name is Ron Madison. I've heard you speak and I see your vision. I understand what you're trying to do by saying that you're going to cure cancer with the conglomerate that you're building. I would just love to talk and introduce myself, the things that I've done, because I can help you get there faster and make this meaningful to your organization that you're coming together. He laughed. I think he was so impressed by the fact of me coming up, just directly, boldly speaking to him. Who am I? Joe Blow, right? Most people don't know what he's talking about. But I did drop names of people that I contacted. He says, well, my CEO is here, Chief Commercial Officer is here. I'll make sure you connect with him. The CCO said, yes, I do remember you sent me that. So they gave me, connected me with his executive assistant. And within a couple of months, I was in LA at his office, and he was my first client, the richest doctor in America. My job was to drive a strategy, see if we can come up with a strategy with the conglomerate that he had built and how they work together and come under one umbrella vision and communicate that down the organization. It was awesome. Just being around that sort of greatness and wealth, it did so much for me in terms of stretching my expectation of not only how I saw myself, but what I thought was possible. Just in that moment, activating my confidence, stepping over imposter syndrome, not listening to the negative voices, but anchoring yourself in confidence, knowing that you are enough, and just taking that moment to move forward. That's what confidence does for you. Write it down, because if you're writing it down, it means something to you. Energy is everything. You got to have a big reason why. That's why motion is embedded in emotion. That's the problem with goal setting. People don't connect with them emotionally, but you've got to connect with your big idea emotionally. Shift your energy and move towards what you want. Albert Einstein said, a mind stretched to a new ideal can never return to its original form. Write it down. That's the first step of creation. When it's written, it's done. Anything around you that you see in your environment had to be written before it was manifested. It's the same thing with your dream or your vision. That's the true meaning and purpose of confidence. It keeps you moving forward with intention and confidence toward what you want. Stick with us here at the Confidence Clinic. We do live spot coaching every week. We stream on YouTube, 9 p.m. Central. Check us out. Follow us at romemadison.com YouTube channel and subscribe to the podcast wherever you stream your content. We'll see you back here next week on the Confidence Coaching Clinic.